Access granted.
Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Cover Art Conversations. My name is Isis, and today's episode, we are here with the wonderful, talented, super dope photographer, Naska. Thank you so much for joining me today. I'm so excited to yap with you.
Thanks for having me.
All right. So, first question I really want to ask whenever I'm like talking to creatives and stuff is like, take me back to the beginning. Whether that's like your first time you picked up a camera, the first interaction you've had with anything creative, like how did we get here today?
Wow. I should have thought about this a little more. So I've always been someone who's been creative, someone who's been into visual arts, who's been into working with my hands. And my father was a DJ. And being a DJ, I grew up in a small apartment, but he had over 10,000 vinyls.
Wow.
So all my life, I used to just take in this artwork, and really like, subconsciously,
right,
just always playing records, DJ for my friends, making mixtapes, whatever. And just always have these album covers in my hands, these vinyls in my hands, and just always wondered like, hey, how was this made? Who did this? Who's the photographer? And it was always a curious back of my mind. So I never really thought about it. So that was my first instance of really like appreciating art and appreciating art, visual representation on vinyl, in print, basically.
Yeah.
And I started drawing. I used to draw my toys. I would draw my toys and my little figurines, G.I. Joes, whatever I had. I used to draw them all the time.
Yeah.
And just try to sketch them. And that's when I really figured that I had like a knack for like crafting my vision or my story through art. And I started doing graffiti. So obviously, doing graffiti and bombing here and there, and just doing smaller things in my city. So I'm from Montreal, Canada, and obviously hip hop and music. I've always been surrounded by hip hop and music and all these other things.
Yeah.
So gravitating towards graffiti was like a natural progression to kind of like, what does that look like? How does my man look on paper?
Yeah.
And how does it look with a marker? And then how do I put this on a wall somewhere? Legally. And then I just started working with computers and working with like digital mediums and working with film. And I found myself really focusing on web design. So I started doing web design as a career, I guess, as a thing to do to get paid, right? So doing web design, clients would be like, hey, could you also do photos for us? And part of me was kind of like, never say no.
Right.
Always say yes and figure it out after. So when clients would be like, yo, can I also get some photos done? I'll be like, yeah, sure, I can do the photos too. So I'll kind of give them like a package deal. So you get a web design and all of the placeholder images for your brand or company, I'll do that also. So that's how I started getting into photography. I didn't really take it seriously. And my brother, I have a twin brother, and he started a blog. He's one of the first adopters in starting a blog. Like back in 2004 when no one knew what a blog was, he was blogging. And I would help capture some of his images for his blog. And then we started traveling together for his blog, because he was like going on press trips and stuff like that, like early when no one even knew what a press trip was. We were going on press trips, and I started capturing the experience of that press trip, and then really started taking my craft really seriously, because in the Tumblr days, people would be like, yo, your photos are dope, your photos are dope. So I was really like big on Tumblr and like really like publishing photos on Tumblr and getting that like social media kind of clout going before Instagram, for everything else. And I really honed in on my photography, which at the time I think was really lifestyle, editorial, travel, a lot of travel photography. And then I asked myself, what do I want my legacy to be? What do I want to be celebrated for 40, 50 years from now? And when I thought about it, I started thinking back about album covers and like really thinking about like, not necessarily album covers, but just about the portrait of an artist.
Right.
And I told myself that portraiture is kind of where I wanted to focus my energies. And I bought my first flash kit from B&H in New York. And it was a cheap flash kit. I bought like the Impact brand, or house brand. And I started practicing studio photography in my home studio at the time, my little makeshift place we were building a studio in, and I started really focusing on like using flashes and strobes in studio. And at the time, that separated me from my peers, because a lot of my peer groups, they weren't doing studio photography, they were doing lifestyle editorial.
Right.
I was doing studio work. So with the studio work, I was able to like really like hone in on my lighting and on my style. And that trajectory basically led from the world discovering me. People saying, yo, I love his work. It's very unique, or at least it has a signature to it. Like if you look at my work overall, you can kind of feel sometimes when it feels like something that I've done.
Absolutely.
And I feel that separated me from like my peer group, who eventually started getting into like portraiture and stuff like that. But everyone who I followed at the time, they were doing landscapes, buildings, different stuff. Yeah. I was like, yo, I want to work with people, because I was thinking about my legacy of the future. And I wasn't thinking about like Instagram and how it felt in the moment. It was really about how do I create a long-lasting legacy. And I figured that portraiture, or at least capturing human emotion and feeling, would be my plan. And that's how I kind of like got deep into working with strictly focusing my energies on people and portraiture.
Yeah, wow, I love that. So, okay, I have a lot of things I want to go back to.
Yeah,
so,
let's do it.
I totally see exactly what you mean as far as trying to like distinct yourself from all the other people, because if you were on Tumblr during that era, like I remember I was on Tumblr too a little bit at that time, but I remember it being like, to your point, like buildings and landscapes and like the aesthetic pictures and the up close and the details. Yeah. And there were really people that were really swagging out
working on some people, yeah.
On the portraits, and I love that. So I like that you kind of found like your pocket and you went with it. And I also love that you were able to collaborate with your brother, especially because so when he was doing his blog, his was primarily like writing, or what?
No, so his blog was focused on fashion. MarcusTroy.com. It was a fashion blog, and basically he was just talking about the stuff that he was into. The stuff that he was like that he liked clothing wise. And this is before there was influencers or any of that stuff. So it's really like just a dude writing and posting on his own platform, his own domain name, the stuff that he was into.
Yeah.
Eventually brands were like, yo, who's this kid that's talking about like Murakami? Who's this kid talking about all these things that people were really up on?
Yeah.
So that visibility allowed not only him to grow and to be a pioneer in this space, it allowed me to get because I won't say I'm more of an introvert. He's more of an extrovert.
Okay.
So I was more behind the scenes. He's more front facing. So I'm like doing the coding behind the scenes for his like blog and like tweaking his WordPress for him and stuff like that. And then doing photo stuff, and he's doing the front facing stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah, we were able to collaborate a lot of stuff and really grow as individuals, but also as a powerhouse, right? So here you have a guy with a lot of taste and knowledge in fashion and just overall lifestyle, and I'm behind the scenes doing all of the nerdy stuff. So that's how we kind of complemented each other.
I love that. I think that it's really cool when people are able to kind of have that like creative, like I don't want to say partner, but kind of like somebody.
No, partner for sure. Okay, like a springboard, someone that any idea that I have, I can talk to him about it, and he can talk about his ideas, and we kind of like have like, you know, that, and the fact, because we're the same age and all that other stuff, there was no like for example, if you're talking to your older sister, older brother, they may just punk you and be like, yo, that idea is whack. Yeah. Whereas when you have like equal footing with somebody, it's more like talking to yourself, but with an added brain. So that was super dope.
Yeah, that's so cool. Yeah. When I was a kid, I used to think just like twins.
Everybody wants to be twins.
Like, yeah, especially creative ones.
Yeah, like, for sure.
That's so fire. So can we talk a little bit more about you growing up? So you were born in Canada?
Yeah, born and raised in Montreal, Canada.
Okay, yeah. So can we talk about how your life growing up, how culturally, how those types of things led into your personal style and just your love for photography?
Yeah, so my parents are from the Caribbean, Trinidad and Tobago to be exact. And being from the islands, my parents were really like big on education and really big on staying in school, stuff like that.
Yeah.
But the other thing that we got from our parents, I grew up with my mom and my dad, which is a blessing in hindsight. When you think about balance and structure, having a 2-unit household does a lot more for you than you know it in the time, right?
Yep.
So my dad specifically was like, "Yo, I don't care what you guys do, just be the best at it. You could be," and he said this straight up. He's like, "Listen, you could be a doctor or a garbage man or a drug dealer. Pick one, but just be the best at it." And people would be like, "Yo, your dad's crazy." He's like, he's crazy. He said as a father, his job was to give us the tools to be the best that we can be. So if I told him that, "Yo, dad, I really want to move weight," as an example, he would be like, "Okay, cool. Let me try to find a plug that can plug you," as opposed to like chastising me.
Yeah.
That type of like upbringing allowed us, or me, I'll speak for me, allowed me to really pursue my dreams and passions without the side voice saying, "Be a doctor, be a lawyer." I can be those things too, but he just said, "Yo, just be the best at what you do." So that really helped me to really find my creative voice. Like I wasn't ashamed to be a creative. Oftentimes my friends and my peers would be like, "Yo, my parents, I'm a lawyer today because my parents wanted me to be a lawyer, but they hate their job." I get to do what I love every day because I was encouraged to do so. So I think like encouraging your kids to do what they want to do and how they want to do it with the right tools and guidance is the best way to raise a child, as opposed to being, you have to be XYZ, right?
Yes.
So my dad also being creative and being an entrepreneur, he was a DJ, he had a record shop, and just allowed us to pursue my dreams. So when I went through a finding myself type of journey, I went back to the camera. I said, "You know what? I really want to make a mark in this world." And I said, "You know what? Let me invest in myself." And the first thing I did was, bought a camera and bought studio lights, even though I had didn't know what I was going to do with them. I just bought it knowing this is what I want to do.
Right.
So that type of like willingness to fly on your own and take risk is what my parents instilled in me in Canada. And because in Canada we suffer with the same type of afflictions and stuff that happens stateside with Americans in terms of like racism and all these other things.
Yeah.
Another thing that was instilled in us is like, "Yo, you have to work twice as hard to get a leg up on the world." So that also played a role in being instilled, like, listen, the world is not fair, and the world is going to try to like put you down. So you have to be twice as good, twice as smart, twice as everything. Yeah. So that allowed me to like not just be like, "Oh, I'm Canadian, how could I ever make it in America?" Or "I'm Canadian, I can never ever." My thinking was always to try to have a global mindset and a global outlook on life. That my geographic location would not limit me to my successes. So even though I'm Canadian, born and raised, I still live here. I was able to see the world with my camera and work with a lot of Canadians and also work with a lot of Americans and Europeans and Italians and Japanese people. But it was the ability to think bigger than my settings. So even if I see it all the time online, like people would be like, "Oh, I'm from Arkansas, small town, I can't make it." And I'm like, that's not true. You could, and again, making is relative, but making it to you in Arkansas might be different than making it for me in Montreal. But some people see working with celebrities as making it. So in that context, it's possible for everyone. You just have to like focus on the work, do good work, and have integrity. And I think that would speak, basically, if you have those 3 attributes, I feel like your name will be spoken in rooms before you even get there. And I feel like that's how my trajectory happened, just based on the work was good. I worked on the work. I'm a solid person, I think, based on my relationships with the world. And then how I keep a level of integrity that's like, I don't really compromise much on things that comes to like my integrity. So I think that allowed me to like really be like, okay, people are like, "Yo, this dude is a stand-up dude. I want to work with him."
Wow, I love that. And I love that you kind of gave me some of your like design philosophies, like design, well, not design, but like creative philosophies and creative principles. And it's funny because I just finished reading The Alchemist, and The Alchemist talks a lot about your personal journey. So I love when creatives and artists of all kinds talk about how, how you just said you bought the light. You didn't know how to work it, but you knew that you had to start. And I love hearing that. I think that a lot of closeted creatives and a lot of closeted artists are kind of like, where do I start? How do I start? But the key is truly in just starting.
Just
And I
starting.
think more people should hear about that. And I love how you talked about like small town. I'm from small town, and thinking globally. I think that a lot of creatives and artists as well could benefit from thinking big. You got to think big. One of my goals as a designer, I want to be able to touch as many countries as I can as far as design is concerned. Like, I want my creativity to lead me to have connections and projects with people all across the world. So I really resonate with you on that front. So, okay, so my next question was, I wanted you to tell me a little bit more about your design principles. I mean, I keep saying design, about your photography or artistic principles. And you kind of talked about like what it is for yourself, but what are some specific things that you try to keep in mind when you're shooting? And I know we kind of talked about like how you play with the lighting and things like that, which I want to get into that specifically later. But what are some other things that you try to keep in mind, like with every project, with every client? And like I said, this could be like a literal thing that you do with the camera if it's like a setting, or this could be just be like a mental thing, a mindset thing that you keep in mind through everything you work with.
Okay, so I would say like, so for me, first of all, I try to tell people all the time is that photography is a mindset first. Mm-hmm. And when you put yourself in the right mindset before you even pick up your camera, you then have way more chances of being more impactful and intentional in what you do because the mindset is right. Mm-hmm. One of the principles that I have when it comes to photography is trying to make sure that I never compromise my subject. Always trying to put them in the best light possible. And that's a principle that I learned from my mentor, Chi Modu, who's no longer with us today. Rest in peace, Chi Modu. But Chi was his work is more known than he is as a person. But once I tell you about his work, you would instantly recognize who he is. He's gotten a lot more acclaim now that he's passed. He passed about 2 years ago now. But Chi, he's worked with Tupac, he's worked with Biggie, he's worked with everybody. And he always said to me, he said, hey, listen, make sure, he always made sure that when he photographed either Tupac or whoever else, to make sure that he always represents them in the right light. Mm-hmm. And I build upon that myself by protecting the light. And protecting the light to me is basically making sure that the light that you put on people always makes them look how you want them to be perceived in the world. The example that we always speak about all the time is the Tupac shot of Tupac in the bathtub. There's a shot of Tupac in a bathtub full of jewelry. Mm-hmm. And Chi's thoughts on that was that Tupac was put in a position that kind of like, in some people's eyes, may look at it as not masculine enough. And the idea that we had of Tupac was this masculine black man. Mm-hmm. And to see him with his legs cocked out with jewelry on him in a bathtub shatters that type of perception. Mm-hmm. So what she would say is that he would never put Tupac in that position. And I would go further to say that's exactly right. Like, obviously we paint people how we see them, right? So if I were to photograph you, it's not a selfie that you're taking, it's how I see you, Isis. But my job though should be still not to embarrass you. Right. Because I'm not a paparazzi, right? Yeah. I'm trying to capture how I see you, your essence, and also how you may not see yourself, but may grow to love yourself, right? In that frame of that image. So my first principle is always that. Protect the subject. Now, if I'm not really feeling your energy and I'm not really feeling who you are when you're sitting for me, yeah, I might do something on my own that makes you not know what I'm doing, but I might light you in a certain way. I might do a split lighting on you. Like, for example, if I feel like you're a two-faced person, right? I might do a split lighting, right? So half light, half dark. Mm-hmm. That's me letting the world know this person might be sketchy. Subtly. I'm not really letting the world, hey, this person's sketchy, but I might just light you in a certain way to kind of tell my story about how I saw you. Right now, everyone's gonna go to my feed and now start checking to see who's lit differently. But no, I'm really saying that it's things you think about, right? When you're lighting. So principle one, protect the subject. there's a thing I like to do whenever a subject comes into my studio, comes into my setting. I have a speech or a mantra that I like. I'm not going to recite it right here because I want people to experience it for themselves when they sit for me. But I kind of put you in the frame of mind of what we're about to do today, and I kind of explain you my intention beforehand. So I think photographers need to realize that not everybody in front of you is either comfortable in sitting for a portrait or is used to being taken for portraits of. So these are all things that you have to consider as an artist or as a photographer, that you're, hey, listen, speak to your client first, give them ground rules within the context of this 10-minute session or 1-hour session, whatever it is, so they're fully aware of what's going on. So I always try to apply those things to make sure that the subject knows where I'm coming from and that they know where my intentions are and that we can kind of build something beautiful together. Because a portrait session, whether it's with a celebrity or an artist, they're still human beings, right?
Right.
So what you want to do is reach them on a level that they understand our humanity, because at the end of the day, it's a collaboration, right? I've had minutes with celebrities that I have only literally 2 minutes, and within those 2 minutes, because PR's on your back, handlers on your back, you're trying to break some ice with somebody, and it's impossible within 2 minutes unless you practice that in the mirror. You know, you really have to do your research. Don't pull up on set and be like, oh, I'm here to shoot Jay-Z, but you really don't know anything about Jay, so you don't know what makes him smile, what makes him angry, so you're just really on set, just trying to like figure it out. So my principle is, second principle will be prepared, do your research. On anybody, if a doctor is coming for a portrait, I still have to either learn about their practice, learn about what they're into, so that when they come now, I can have a conversation about, hey, I know that you're a dentist. Hey, and you can kind of break the bread and kind of get that tension out of the way. That would be my second principle. Yeah.
I love that, because to your point, there is kind of a level of vulnerability when you're in front of a camera, because you can't see, you don't know what's going on as the person being shot. So the fact that you can respect that, and the fact that you offer that level of like, listen, we on the same page. I want you to look good. You want you to look good. So let's stay on the common ground of that. And I think in an age where a lot of people could easily like turn on their phone and look at themselves and check themselves, like there is a little bit of I guess one could sort of say like anxiety with being shot. I mean, at least I could see how a subject would feel that way.
Absolutely. Even if you were photographed 1,000,000 times, it's always jarring to be stripped, because remember, camera, right? When I'm like this, you don't see my face.
Exactly.
You don't see my emotion, you don't see anything. So you're just hearing a voice giving you direction.
Yeah.
If we don't have any rapport before that, you may think I'm yelling at you. You may think that I'm screaming at you. You may think that I'm not happy with you. So before I block my face and obscure my face from you being able to see it, the minute we have that conversation, you know that what happens behind the camera now, we're on the same level. And that's my goal, to make sure that you understand that we're here to achieve one goal, which is to make you look, as I intend you to look, but as amazing as possible. I don't want to go as far as to say my job is to make you look beautiful. Yeah. Because if you want that, you can get a selfie. You can do that on your own. Right. My job is to document and to immortalize you. And in the minute when I'm trying to immortalize you, I need you to give me that immortal, iconic look, that regard, that visage that's going to really like speak to the world, because we're trying to convey a message, right? When you look at an album cover, you look at somebody. I mean, for me, like, I don't really watch movies the same anymore, or I'm always looking from a creative standpoint, not just like trying to enjoy something. When I look at album covers, I'm staring in your eyes. I'm staring at the skin texture. I'm staring at every single detail that was done, because I'm assuming it's done on purpose, with intention. Because that's how I work. I work with intention. So I'm assuming that every little pixel is there on purpose. So I look for those details, and hopefully I find magic within a photographer or creative's thinking, because I'm noticing that, oh wow, look what they did. You know what I mean? So yeah.
I love that. We're all about curating a vibe beforehand and during and after and all
Absolutely.
levels of that. So I really love that. So, talking a little bit about, subjects and clients and projects, like what, I don't want to say like what is your ideal subject, but like what, for somebody, well, I don't want to say for somebody. Let me think how I want to ask this question. I guess I want to know, like, what's like your ideal kind of vibe when you're working with clients versus when you're working with other people in major projects? Like somebody next to you shooting versus somebody who you're shooting. Like, what kind of do you want those vibes to look like if you could?
I want time. I want time.
Okay.
My most important thing with people is how can I spend the most amount of time with you, if possible, right? Because that time allows me to really have a really in-depth session or really intimate session with you.
Yeah.
Right? Where we get to like really like build on your dreams, your aspirations. Like I like to ask clients, hey, if I've never photographed you before, I'll be like, hey, how do you like to be shot? I don't like to use the word shot, but how do you like to be photographed? And people find that odd, but it opens them up. Like, I never thought about that. That creates a conversation like, yeah, right. How do you like to be seen? Because we all have that thing within us, but no one ever asks us, so we never know. We never know. People, I mean, mostly women will be like, oh, I have a good side, bad side, right? That's as far as that conversation goes. Get my left side.
Yeah, when you actually, I'm like, that's what I would say. I'd be like, get my left.
Right. But that alone lets you know that, wow, he cares. And not only does he care, now you're going to give me your best effort because you've realized that here's somebody who has empathy to my anxiety, to my nervousness, to whatever comes with being captured. It's not easy. And remember, we're on the internet today, which means once that picture gets published, right, the jokes are going to fly if it's not good. The roasting's going to fly. So my job is like, yo, how do we make sure that we're not getting roasted? A friend of mine did an album cover. I'm not gonna name the friend, or I mean, I won't say a friend. I would say a colleague of mine did an album cover a couple years ago, and for a very popular artist. But the cover got roasted. I'll tell you privately in the chat. The cover got roasted, and people were just dissing it. And it was a few things that was wrong with the image that I wouldn't have done personally, but. My goal is to always avoid that when they I don't want none of the work that I do to start getting memed in the negative way. If you meme it in the positive way, cool. But if you're making fun of the image, it means I failed as my job into providing an image that was not memeable. It's to make sure that the subject looks as strong or as beautiful or as poised or as whatever you're trying to get from this particular image, that I succeed in that without people saying, oh yeah, let me add this to it. Let me add to make it, you know what I mean? So that's kind of what my point is, to kind of make sure that, you're focused on making sure that the subject is always on the same, wavelength as you.
Okay, so I kind of have a question too, and this, I really am not too, like I said, like I'm more of a big brain creative, so I don't know too much specifically about photography, but do you feel like certain types of portraits or whatever like depend on the kind of medium, like shooting for an album cover versus shooting for like a magazine versus shooting for like, do you think the why or the what affects the process or affects the way that you approach a project, if that makes sense?
Absolutely, yeah, and you're absolutely right. It makes perfect sense, and you cannot approach every. There's an art to capturing people, right? And depending on the intention, your album cover should not look like a mugshot, unless that's what we're going for.
Right.
So if I know that we're perfect example, right? We'll talk about something more recent, right? So the GID album cover that we just did, right? I'm sure we're gonna speak about it after. On that set, I was tasked with obviously capturing the album photo, but I was also tasked to capturing press shots. So the press shots different thinking than the album shot.
Mm-hmm.
So when you're doing press shots now, you're going for a different focal range in the lens.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're going for different negative space because you might want to put words left side, right side, above, below.
Right. You got to
So
be
your framing is also different. So there's different things you have to consider when you're going into a headshot for a doctor, or a headshot for a LinkedIn profile, or an album cover photo shoot, or editorial if you're a model, you know. So I remember, so there was a political candidate in Montreal that wanted shots for his campaign,
right,
of him and his whole entire, you know, political staff or whatever. And I did the shots in a political feeling, as far as like what to put, like, you know, so
yeah, very serious, very
well lit, bright, and then we do the photos. He hits me back and he's like, I didn't like the photos. He's like, I wanted your style. I'm like, bro, my style it's gonna be in every photo I take, but you're not gonna get the dark shadows creeping in your face on a political poster. He's like, yeah, but I'm like, but no, bro. If you're telling me that you want me to photograph you for your political campaign, they have to look a certain way, because I don't want to be clowned in the media saying, look at these photos of Obama that look crazy, because it looks like a rap video photos, right?
Yeah.
So there was a disconnect in communication. But that was my point, was I knew going into it that I cannot photograph a political candidate the same way I would photograph GID, for example.
Right.
Unless he's running for office. If Jid tomorrow's like, yo, I'm running for office, I'm going to give him, I'm running for office type of photo, right? So even when the client is not certain what they want, I'm supposed to know what they want. And even though he wanted something in his mind that was not what I delivered him, he didn't understand the reasons why, but I had to explain to him, bro, you are running for a very important job in the city of Montreal.
Yeah.
You cannot have I don't use the word grungy, that's not my style, but you cannot have moody photos.
Yeah,
right?
yeah, I like that.
It will look weird. So to answer your question, yes, every time you go into a new setting to photograph somebody, you have to consider its usage. You want to consider certain things like that. Unless the creative director on set is like, no, we want to make his photo look like a headshot for LinkedIn, or we want to make his photo look like blurry or out of focus, or we want to make him, you know what I mean? There's different things that you have to consider, but obviously working with your team and creative director, you come to a plan, and that plan, as a photographer, I voice my opinion on, wait a minute, what's the album called?
Yeah.
What's the thematics? What's he doing? What is she doing? Okay, cool. I recommend this. Then we go from there.
I love that. So, and then that kind of like goes into my next question. As a photographer, like, do you like that structure and that direction from a creative director, or do you want to just be briefed, be prefaced on what the vibe is, and you swag out? Because I know some creatives, they like to have a little bit of like a loose box to work with, or else they'll just be like, well, like, I know for myself, in certain instances, like, you can't tell me just design whatever. Like, I need a little bit of whatever. So do you prefer that direction from a creative director, or do you kind of prefer to just your own?
Good question. Luckily for me, I've earned a lot of trust amongst the people I've worked with in the last couple of years.
Yeah.
So usually creative directors kind of trust my vision to complement their ideas. So I kind of get like a solid foundation of, yo, this is what we're doing. But I'm then allowed to like interject and to kind of like input my own thinking or vibe or whatever I think would kind of like, you know, put it all together. So I do want some structure. I don't want to fly blind.
Yeah.
Usually clients with budget don't let you fly blind. The people with like no budget want you to kind of like do it all.
Yeah.
which is the irony in all of that. But
yeah.
but once you have budget to have a creative director on on site or on set or on the project, yeah, they're gonna come with their idea of what it's supposed to feel and look like. And I work I work well within those parameters also. But I do like the trust that I've gained to be able to like be like, okay, cool. What do you think about this? What do you think about that? Or no, I don't like that idea because of this. I think it's important to always have a backbone. I think oftentimes, you see, when you've been doing this long enough, you're not pressed for the opportunity. The first time you get the opportunity,
I feel like I should be taking notes.
No,
You got some fire lines here.
but it's true though. The first time you get the opportunity though, you're like, you don't say a word because you're just happy to be here.
Right.
You know, so you're just like, oh, you want me to do this? Sure. You know what I mean? So that's why I tell people all the time, never let no one know when you started your craft. But why not? Because they use it against you. Always step into the building like, yo, I've been doing this, I do this. What do you want? If you come in like, oh yeah, I'm just happy to be here, meek and mild, you're gonna get you're gonna do way more work than what you're being paid for.
Yeah.
And you're gonna be happy to do it because you're like, oh my gosh, I have an opportunity. But oftentimes work can get scrapped. So imagine you went beyond the call of duty for a project and you're like, oh yeah, we've changed directions. That can happen in two different ways. That can be A, you didn't put your foot down long enough to show the people that, yo, you know what you're doing.
Yeah.
Enough for them to trust you. Or B, they weren't happy with the final image or the final product. And that just means that you probably should have spoken up about what you didn't like. Because as a creative, we know where things can kind of go funky at the end. You're kind of like, oh, I'm not going to say anything because I don't want to lose opportunity. But you might not lose it, or it might never get published. Yeah. There's things that I've worked on that's never seen the light of day and never will see the light of day. For whatever reason, it could be like, oh, the client doesn't want to invest, or we lost them, whatever it is.
Yeah.
Imagine you didn't put your foot down and it never got published. At least, you know, you have your integrity and pride if you put your foot down. So I say it's really important to like speak your mind, even if it's your first day in the gig. Show them that you have like, you know, the balls to like to finalize your vision of what you want, of how you see this, because it came to you for a reason, right? When somebody hits you like, yo,
you're in that space because of that. So
exactly.
So pop out. Yeah.
Exactly.
I love that. I think that also, you know, as a creative, sometimes like we hold things so near and dear to our heart too. It's like, oh, we don't want to disrupt. I don't want to. But to your point, like there has to be a time where you got to be like, I am the photographer and I know that this ain't it, or I'm the creator. I know that this ain't going like that. So so I love that. Wow, so many great gems. Like I said, I literally feel like I should be taking notes. So
we're friends now, so we can talk to each other often now. We can be like, yo, I can give you advice.
Okay, great. I love that. So switching gears a little bit, specifically about your specific style for photography. So the thing that drew me to your style as a photographer, I feel like, okay, I'm trying to use my words carefully and correctly. So we talked about how when you take these shots of your subjects, how you kind of use those heavy shadows and how you play around with the light a little bit. And I love that because I feel like it's almost like you are putting light to the negative space. Like I know that sounds like that sounds like so juxtaposing, but I like that the negative space like is the person, if that makes sense. Like you know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah, I'll go even deeper, right? So I'm really known for like the black background negative space and the subject really like well lit or lit in the center or offside or whatever. The blackness that engulfs the subject, to me, that represents the world. It represents everything that makes up the human being. And I'm filling it with you in the center or you in the frame to kind of let the world know that even though the world is filled with darkness, you know, there's still light, and that light is you, right? So my job is really to like to make everyone feel iconic, the iconic selves, right? It's really like, yo, I want you to look back 40 years from now, 50 years from now and be like, man, here's a photo that I've taken back in Montreal or wherever in the world, and this makes me at this time I was going through this, and this photo really elevated, you know, me in this way or that way. It's really to have a memento, a piece of art that kind of like that you would hang on your wall, that you would hang you know, in your living room or hang at your mother's place.
Yeah.
So the black background, the darkness around it all is really represents like the world, and the silver lining is you, the person that I have in the frame. And sometimes when I have the shadows creeping in on, you know, the sides of your face and it's just you, to me that's like the negativity, the negative space trying to creep in on you, but you're still able to like break through. So like I look at my photography as like a breakout, as like as a coming out into the world of, this is who I am, and I'm proud, and I have pride of who I am, and this is how I want the world to perceive me.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what my goal is every time I capture somebody in that context.
And I love that. And I think that that shows so clearly, and it's so powerful. And I love that you can keep that messaging consistent with all your work. Like I saw that you posted like a whole bunch of shots, and you kind of had like, you were circling some, you were
my selects, selects.
And
So that's one, how it's not to cut you, sorry. How that's you're talking about like my contact sheet, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
And I love, so is this correct that you are going through and kind of saying yay or nay of the pictures that still that fit that philosophy of making sure that it's like, I don't know if it's like an even thing, or if it's like, oh, this one's not dark enough and he doesn't look too good in the shot, but whatever it is, I love that you kind of gave us a glimpse of how you sift through that.
Yeah. So my culling process in photos is really like, I have my own checklist of things. It's not a long checklist, but probably like 8 to 9 items that makes a photo stand out to me. And when I'm going for images, I mentally go through that checklist, and that's how I determine which images are going to stay and which I'm going to put to the side. And that's allowed me to really find the images that speak to my principles, as opposed to what the brand may want or the company may want. So generally what happens is I take 100 photos, right? I go through my preliminary selections. So based on my principles, I go through my images that I like, and those images, the final 30 images, based on my principles, is what I'm going to send the client. If the client's like, oh, are there any more doing yeah, I might go back and be like, sure, I have these that were my, you know, secondary choices. If that ever happens, it's happened probably. Like, it doesn't happen often, because again, trust development. But if they want to see more, I'll show them more. For example, the politician I told you about, you know, he was kind of like, are there any more? I'm like, bro, they're all going to be the same style of political type of images. It's not going to be, it's still my style, but it's going to look comparable to what you would see on a campaign trail. It's not going to look like, you know, dark and like moody style images, right? So so client would ask, hey, can I see some more images? I'll show them more images for sure, but I like to go through the culling process myself and select the images that I know are going to adhere to the principles that I've already established years ago in my practice.
Yeah, I love that. I think breaking that down and hearing that like really just doubles down on the true craft and expertise that you do. Like that's why you're good at what you do, because there's so much intention and so much detail and so much steadiness. And I really appreciate that as an artist.
Thank you.
So shifting gears again a little bit, I want to talk specifically about album covers. So I know you've worked on a couple really cool cover arts. I'm sure some we know, some we don't know. But because this is my show, I want to talk about work that you've done for Revenge of the Dreamers 3. And the reason why that stuck out to me, again, I saw a little bit of your process and a little bit how you actually shot it. I want you to talk about that creatively, but also I just want to make the connection that it kind of reminded me of Danny Hastings, how he shot the Nas cover art with the gold mask on, and how they had to adjust the lighting and everything. Shout out to Danny. And
shout out to Danny for sure.
Hearing that process and seeing how you kind of can manipulate like light like that is really scientific. Like there really is such a science that goes with that. So can you talk a little bit about that, and how did you even figure out how to do what you did to get the final cover?
Sure. So let me backtrack a little bit. First of all, shout out to Felton from Dreamville, the creative director on that shoot too. And shout out to Danny Hastings also, who's definitely inspiration for sure. He has a lot of work in the ether that's basically just like a solid foundation of what people were doing back then with film, not even digital, right?
Yeah.
Long story short, J. Cole and crew were coming to Montreal for the KOD tour.
Mm-hmm.
And because my work has been bubbling for a while, when Felton was in New York, he had spoken to some people that we know in common, and he was told that, yo, when you get to Montreal, you got to connect with the twins, which is my brother and I. Mm-hmm. And I get a DM one day. I get a follow one day from Dreamville. Mm-hmm. I'm like, not Dreamville. I got a follow one day from Felton, who's from Dreamville.
Right.
And I'm like, Dreamville. I'm like, that's interesting. Cool. And then I get a DM, and it's like, yo, been talking to people that know you in common. We're coming to Montreal. We'd love to connect. And yeah, they came to Montreal, and we connected. And while we were here, this is a bit off topic, but I think it's relevant. I was questioning. I was talking to Felton and the guys. I was like, yo, I'm like, how come rappers or people in general, or Black people in general, don't consciously hire Black photographers to do their album covers? Mm-hmm. And he's like, what do you mean? I'm like, when you go back to all of these album covers throughout history, yeah, right? You have like these really in-depth Black stories, mm-hmm, and Black storytelling. Yeah. But there seems to be a disconnect on the follow through that you sit in your room, let's just say, as a rapper, and you write this hood story, right? You write this really like compelling story that people from your culture can relate to. Mm-hmm. Then you do the album artwork, and you do the videos, and you do all of that other stuff. But the people that are telling that part of the story are oftentimes not Black, for many reasons. Yeah. One of the reasons could be that, you know, the sport of photography is a really expensive sport, especially when it first started, right? Yeah. So we didn't have a leg up to actually get the gear, to get the lights, to get everything we needed. So it was really hard back then, let's just say 60s to now. I mean, 60s back then to, you know, it was really hard to get into the game. But now, because of digital cameras, you know, the industry has been democratized, and it's a lot easier now for everyone to get cameras. Yeah. So why not have someone from your culture tell that story? Yeah. And he was like, honestly, he's like, yo, he's basically saying like, yo, I've never thought about it in that context. 2 years later, I get the call. He's like, yo, Naska, that talk we had stayed on my heart.
I love that.
Let's work.
Yeah.
Now, when I told him this at the time, it wasn't because I wanted a gig. I was just basically saying, listen, like it doesn't matter. Like I just want the intention of like, and not to say that white photographers or Hispanic photographers or whoever cannot capture Blackness. Right. The point I'm trying to make was that when you are Black, though, you do have common lived experiences that can help craft deeper, connected stories with intention, because we all know what we're fighting for here. Mm-hmm. So I got the call, and he's like, yo, we're working on The Revenge 3, and we spoke with the whole crew. We want you to basically be the guy to do this. And I was just like, oh, super sick, dope. The initial concept wasn't even that at all. The initial concept was, well, the idea that I had at the time was to photograph everyone, mm-hmm, and have their reflections reflected in the trophy. Kind of like, I mean, if you remember Superman 1972 or 74, I forget which one, the Christopher Reeves one. Mm-hmm. There's a scene where Superman sends everybody to space, like he captures everybody, blah blah blah, and he kind of puts them in this like thin glass piece. Mm-hmm. And Zod, those guys were kind of like imprinted in this glass and sent to space, kind of like a tomb, so to speak. And I was thinking about, it would be super cool if we do like that kind of like reflective glass piece on the actual trophy.
Yeah.
To reflect everybody that's in this collaborative project. But because everyone was on tour,
yeah,
it would have been too crazy to go around the world trying to find everybody to get their portrait. So we settled on just doing the trophy that they had built in New York in resin, and they assembled in New York and they shipped it. Oh, sorry, Felton brought it to Montreal. He flew with it here to Montreal. So because I believe, side note, I love photography. So I don't only do portraiture. I do commercial photography. I do product photography. I do all kinds of photography, but you will never really see it on my feed. But I do have, because I love the game so much.
Yeah.
I shoot everything. So I had already been practicing for years, photographing animate objects and product shots. So when he's like, we have this gold trophy, it was a no-brainer for me. I knew exactly how I was going to light it because I've done it so many times for brands, companies, or whatever. So when he brought it in, the goal was, how do I light this for it to look like it's digital, but also leave a little Easter egg so people know that it's not digital.
Yeah.
So in the trophy itself, these little highlight in between the bottom of the letters that I left there on purpose so that people would be like, okay, this is obviously not done digitally, because you won't leave a random highlight on a digital, you keep it clean like that. So I left the light so people know that it was actually studio light. But to this day, people still tell me, oh, I thought that was Photoshop. So the lighting process was easy to me because I had already done it so many times. So I knew what I wanted to look, and I knew I wanted the background, how I do people, but just kind of flip it to like product or an item, and that was a trophy. And it was super fun to do. We spent a lot of time dusting it, a lot of time air blowing it, and then also in the retouching too. We made sure that we got rid of all of the lint and every dust speckle. It was a really great project to work on, and I was actually happy that it was not a portrait because it allowed people to see more of my other work on the main stage as opposed to just people, right?
Yeah. And I think that we got it. I got it. I thought like this cover art has been really significant to me for a minute. I always am looking at like how did what was so I think that I like that you had that thought process, because I think it's true that people should see the diversity in the work. So so going back to portraits a little bit, can we talk about the creativity and the process for God Does Like Ugly? What was the whole process like? The call, the creative direction,
so that's pretty interesting. So I got a call. So I went to Dreamville Fest for the first time. It was an amazing time, and I got to reconnect with everyone who I hadn't seen in years. And I bumped into Jid. I was like, "Yo, what's going on?" He's like, "Yo, I'm just coming out soon." I'm like, "Cool." And they had already worked on the cover for that project, but Jid wanted to do an alternate cover to support the larger storytelling of this project, and to how and also how God Does Like Ugly came about. And he basically got the gang back together. So got Felton, and Felton got me and said, listen, he's like, yo, I want to get Naska on this. So they brought me in to kind of basically help capture that story. And basically the overall concept was a revival, kind of like being lost in the world and then coming to finding God on a side of a road, which is this. So we went to Atlanta and we built this this makeshift church on this really large property, and we put up a church, a big revival tent church, and we brought in all of our people and the congregation, everyone, and we created this really dope story on finding oneself, and basically saying that no matter who you are, you know, God has forgiveness for you, you know, the good, the bad, the ugly, right? And saying that so many people get away with committing so many sins, it's almost as if though God does like ugly, because we're all living within this sense of borrowed time, you know, with God watching over us, and we're not living our best lives at all times, right? So it means that at some point, you know, we are kind of like all sinning, but we're all winning, right? And yeah, and so I got the call. So after Dreamville Festival, they're like, yo, we already worked on, we already have everything we need for this project. I'm like, okay, cool. Can't wait to see it. I'm excited. And I just thought nothing of it. And then a couple of weeks later, I get the call like, yo, we're working on this JID alternate cover storyline. And yeah, I was super excited. And Felton sent over his brief, and we kind of like went over it, took some things out, put things in, and really developed this really intense PDF of everything, of all the reference points, everything, kind of like really just planning meticulously every step of the way of what it's going to look like and feel like. And I assembled my team, and we went to Atlanta, and we made magic, and it was great. It was one day shoot in the bush in Atlanta, and it was just in Georgia, and it was just an amazing feeling, just being able to like create amazing work for artists that I actually really respect and love, and whose music I'm dialed into. You know what I mean? It's not just like, oh, I'm taking a gig. This is actually an artist I actually listen to, and whenever you get to work with an artist whose music you actually like, I think you give your best foot forward, because you're like, this has to be crazy. We have to kill this. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I love that. I love to hear when creatives get to work with musicians that they actually really respect and enjoy and appreciate creatively. So that's really cool too. But with hearing all of that, what I loved hearing the most was the importance of building out the concept of a project. Like, it's important to have alternate covers and additional visuals and things like that, more than just like one flat, well, not flat, but like as opposed to just one album cover. So I like that there was respect and emphasis put on the album, on the alternate cover. So that's really cool to hear.
And also to add to that is that they also released a single, which is the new video's out now, that's only available on that cover, on that version of the album. So it's kind of like, that's also super dope too, that you're not just like, you know, a fill-in. You're really like, you're part of something on its own too, right? So that was super dope to see. And also like just talking to Jid and like finding out his vision and finding out what he wants and how he likes to be photographed. All these things that we spoke about earlier, just made it even more special, because we had that conversation, we had that talk, we had, you know, we really like decided to like, yo, what are we doing? How are we gonna do this? And it was cool. And to have his trust and Felton's trust and the label's trust, like, it's really something that you can't really think about how much that means when you think about, hey, I'm a kid from Montreal, Canada, that's working with an American artist with a stature like Jid in Atlanta. It just makes it like, it just shows this hope for everybody to really, you know, be the best version of themselves. And I'm really proud of that moment. And I really love what we did. And now that the album's nominated for a Grammy, you know, we hope that it also wins. I think it's going to win too. People are saying, you know, it's a tough race. It absolutely is a tough race. Clips put out a dope project.
Absolutely.
And GNX also. But yeah, the JID album, I'm biased right now, so that's what I'm going for.
Yeah, that's so cool. I love hearing that. Are there any artists, and not just musically, photography, creative directors, any other artists that you are really looking forward to working with? Anybody that you admire that you're like, ooh, me and this person would do a fire project together?
I would like to photograph Drake for an album cover. We're both Canadian. I think that Canadian pride, that Canadian connect would be super sick, super dope.
Yeah.
Uh,
I think I would like to see that too, actually. I did a couple years back, I kind of did like a creative analysis, I guess, on the importance and the significance of Drake and his iconic portraits,
yeah.
and how significant they were in like each of his life, and how, and I did merch. It was really merch for, it was an Olive Blur tour, and I like,
Okay.
and I added like, the merch was a portrait of him.
Yeah.
And I was just like talking about how, you know, the Drake portrait is so significant in so many different ways. And so I think that he hasn't done a portrait in a minute, and I think that would
Exactly.
that would be good. That would be good for the
exactly.
people.
So that's kind of like what I'm thinking. Like the fact that he started off really like doing portraits for his covers, right?
Yeah.
To then I think Certified Lover Boy is when he stopped. Yeah, Certified Lover Boy was on the cover. So I was kind of like, man, like if he can go back to like doing portraits, I would love to capture that for many reasons, but significantly the fact that we are both Canadian, I think that would be super dope. And I think that we'll just have like a magical collaboration on creating like artwork for that project. I think for any project of his, that'd be super dope.
Yeah.
I want to also photograph Barack Obama for his significance. Again, part of my raison d'être is to have Black people tell Black stories.
Mm-hmm.
You realize that whenever a celebrity dies, the images that circulate around them oftentimes are not done by Black photographers. Sorry, whenever a Black celebrity dies, oftentimes the photos that are circulated about them, the story's never told by a Black photographer, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I remember when John Lewis died, the senator John Lewis, Good Trouble. I was looking for like, yo, who are the photographers that shot these photos of him? And it was always, other photographers. But then my boy Anthony Gethers from New York City, he had a portrait that kind of went viral too, that he had shot of him. And I'm like, finally, a Black photographer that has. And the reason why this is significant to me is because think about the value in the archives.
Mm-hmm.
Think about the photographers who are able to send their kids to college because their mom or their dad have all of hip hop history, and that's kind of like, it's almost like we should have some sort of ownership on ourselves and our culture.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like we should be able to be like, hey, listen, oh, I photographed D'Angelo 1 million times. D'Angelo passes away. Rest in peace, D'Angelo. Now my archive goes up in value.
Yeah.
Right? And then I can now rent it out or lend it out to the Smithsonian or whoever. I can do things. But generally, an artist like D'Angelo, there's not many Black photographers that can say, yo, I was able to lens this guy.
Yeah.
And that's sad to me. It's sad to me that hip hop turned 50 years old and everyone was celebrating who has all of the visual juice of hip hop.
Mm-hmm.
It's not people from the culture. And even though the other people played in the culture and they played it very well, don't get me wrong.
Right.
But certain archives, unfortunately, I feel like we should have ownership in that. And I remember when Pele, the soccer player, died.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, man, hey, on Twitter, I was like, can anybody point to me any Black photographer that has a photo of Pele? And this one photographer guy, this white guy was like, why didn't you just get it yourself if that's what you wanted, in that kind of tone. And I'm like, it's not that easy, bro. Mm-hmm. It's not just, oh, I'm Black, I can get a photo. It's the systems are set up in order not to always put us in the position to get those photos. Unfortunately, Black creatives, their portfolios live on their phones.
Yeah.
It doesn't go anywhere else outside of what they've created for themselves. And I'm saying is, how do we have Run DMC photos? How do we have Slick Rick photos? How do we have DMX photos? How do we get that? And my solution is start now. Consciously, artists, tell your teams, yo, I'm telling a story. I want these people to capture me.
Correct.
Hey, I'm doing a video. I want these people to capture me, you know, so that you're doing two things. You're empowering the creatives such as ourselves.
Yeah.
Right. You're giving us equity, and you're allowing us to grow our own personal wealth by having these archives, by having these talking points, to say, hey, I shot this, I did this, I produced this, I directed this. These are things that we can use to elevate to the next level. And I think it's really important that we all collectively start building that strong-knit community of creatives, because we exist. We're a talented bunch. We set the trends, we set the culture. Why not be the people telling those stories also?
Yes. Oh yeah, that was so good. I agree wholeheartedly. I never even thought about, to your point, like the whole thing with ownership and like having like kind of like building that creative generational wealth, especially
absolutely.
We are the ones that create it, like culturally.
And think about it now. You know what's happening right now? AI is so prevalent right now that there's not going to be, first of all, you have digital blackface that's being done a gazillion times, right? Everyone's creating black characters in AI for whatever reason, right? So as photographers, we're slowly going to start losing our visual presence. That 20 years from now, all of our images that we're going to consume are not going to be made by humans anymore.
Yeah.
So the value in human produced art is going to go up even further, and we don't own it. We have zero in ownership on, like, I'm talking about like legacy archives, the stuff that can send up your family for life, you know, in terms of licensing deals, merch deals. We don't own it. So so we're losing the race again.
Yeah, that's such a, and to your point about do it now, start now.
Well, now, yeah, artists, they have the power. The artists have to realize that I have the power to say, hey, this is who I want for my photo shoot. Make it happen. It doesn't have to be me. I love if it's me, but I'm saying it's just my peers, my peer group are so talented that everyone that I've seen, works I admire, they're so talented that you have a plethora of people that you can choose from to help tell your story, and you won't miss a beat at all.
I think that is actually super inspiring and makes you as a creative want to like create more.
Absolutely.
Create more with intention, and create more with that lens. No pun intended, but
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So my last question before I let you go is, what piece of advice would you give to your past self if you can go back in time and have a conversation with younger you? What is something that you would say?
Buy more Bitcoin. No, I would say, if I can go back in the past, I would say to live more outside of the lens. A lot of my life was lived behind the lens, and I don't get to take it in because I'm always in like capture mode, and I've lived a really, like, the photography, no lie, has taken me around the world. I've seen a lot of amazing stuff. I did a lot of great things. I've met a lot of great people, but it was through the context of photography. Yeah. So I would say to myself, work in the work, it's dope, it's cool, but make sure you take time to take it all in, because yes, you are from a small city on the grander scheme of things, and oftentimes the images are enough of a memory, but I don't know if I felt it really in the moment at the time, because I'm just trying to be a consummate professional in the moment, and I'm not trying to fan out, but just in terms of like being present. Yeah. I'm not really taking in so I would tell myself, listen, balance, you know, do the dope stuff, but also live it while you're doing it.
I think that's a great piece of advice, because I too am so like mentally, like, I'm like, you gotta like you gotta live a little to get to sometimes exactly. Life gives you shortcuts if you're not too like locked in, zeroed in like that.
That's facts.
But Naska, thank you so much. This was such a
thanks for having me.
Thank you. Conversation. I really appreciate all the gems, and like I said, I really feel like I should have been taking notes. I'm gonna go back and write some stuff down for real.
Cool. And we can talk anytime. Hit me.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you guys. Thanks for having me, guys. Peace.